Okay, we are going to get this party started. And I don't think I've ever used the word party in the same phrase as legal news ever in my life because everybody knows how exciting some of this stuff can be at times or not. But welcome. This is Jeff Solomon. I'm here with Fred Gray, the president of and founder of Gray Systems, the man who wrote the book on this stuff. So he's the guy you could send all the complaints to. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But we're here today for a legislative update. We're going to be covering HB 913 pretty heavily and anything else that might be in effect that is pertinent to this particular legislative session update. There isn't much in the way of HOA news this season. It's mostly condominium and cooperative managers, management companies. You're on the hook for some new stuff this year. I want to make a couple of things clear that today's session, and we hope not to lose you after saying this. We want you to hang out with us and for this vital information. But this is not a legal update class for CAMs. Those approvals haven't come in yet. And we haven't gotten approvals for any of the HOA board member continuing education credit classes just yet. We anticipate those very, very soon. This is strictly informational. This is being recorded. You will be able to watch a review of this session should you miss anything, so you don't have to take copious notes. This will be on the Gray Systems website in a day or two. Just give us a little bit of time to edit all the stuff that doesn't need to be in there out, such as the speech I'm making now. So again, graysystems.com. This recording will be on there live. The Q&A module, not to be confused with the chat module, the Q&A module is open for you to ask questions on topic. We also have some pre-submitted questions that Fred will address today. If they are pertinent and appropriate to the topics at hand, they will be covered. So please don't be upset or offended if we do not cover any questions you may ask or may have been submitted previously that are not on topic. If it is anything that is not on topic that happens to cover like real world manager or board member situations and it's not too legal in nature, that's something I will cover at the end of the class if it's something that is within my wheelhouse. So again, we'll cover any questions or comments that are submitted if they are deemed appropriate for today's material. So with that said, I want to now turn it over to the president of Gray Systems, the man who created a lot of this stuff for the state of Florida. If you didn't know that, if you happen to be new to the industry, this is Fred Gray. Fred, take it away, my man.
Thank you, Jeff. Kind words
You
about
can
all
pay me
that.
later. You can pay me later for those kind words. Now,
Absolutely.
I've known you for years. I'm just messing with you. But welcome. Thanks for doing this for everybody today.
And I want to say thanks for everybody being here as well. And I want to follow up on what Jeff said. A reminder, this is not continuing education for any of the requirements for CAMs, board members, condo or HOA, anything like that. We felt like it would be nice to get this information out. There is a lot of confusion about the package that passed this year. Actually, as it went through the legislative process, I was kind of surprised that it came out as a package as it did. I've watched this process over 40 years, and there's always been resistance to over-regulation, putting more requirements on everybody. But somehow or another, our legislative bodies have now accepted the fact that we do need some additional guidance and regulation. Also, as time passes, I expect some of this to be rolled back as we find pushback from the various uh, parts of the industry that are getting additional regulation here as well. We're going to talk some about the requirements coming out regarding the structural integrity reserve study, the SERS, and milestone inspections that all came out in 2022 after the collapse of the Champlain Tower South building in 2021. It's interesting to note in the regular legislative session in 2022, the Speaker of the House, President of the Senate, and the governor refused to bring up any proposals regarding building safety. In the regular session, after the session ended, all the legislators went home and their constituents in the areas that were affected by that created a lot of pushback. So we need to do something for these buildings. That resulted in passage of a bill in 2022 that initiated the milestone inspections and the structural integrity reserve studies. Every year since then, they kept pushing it back a little bit more, a little bit more. The net effect of this bill is for the buildings that are required to have the structural integrity reserve study. They have now until the end of this year, 2025, to complete that. There won't be any more legislative sessions this year, so that's probably going to stick. But there may be another extension coming up next year. So I'll watch all of this carefully, and we'll kind of expand on that discussion.
Covering
Later
that
on as
question
well.
now, Matt's asking a question about when you get the class certified for board member continuing ed, can we get credit for this class? And I can take that one, Fred, so you can rest your voice for a minute since you're going to be doing a lot of talking. Matt, everybody else in attendance, the state, and Fred will nod in agreement with this, I'm sure. The state is not known for applying anything retroactively. I mean, they're just not known for doing that. So we are still waiting for the state to send us, as well as all the other providers, the letter listing the criteria for what must be covered in the condo board member legal CEU class. We just don't know yet what needs to be in the class. They haven't alerted us or anybody else just yet. We only began getting the HOA class CEU approvals yesterday, and we've been submitting for what, 8 or 9 weeks now. So we only started getting those approvals yesterday. We still haven't even gotten the condo criteria letter yet. So once we have that, we'll have better answers, Matt and anybody else wondering. But stick around, because today is going to clear up a lot of confusion, as Fred mentioned. Because, Fred, everything that comes out of Tallahassee 100% of the time always makes 100% sense the first time, right? I hope you
No,
could sense the sarcasm there, but back to you.
never. Okay. Thanks, Jeff. I'm not answering that. No, I was going to say the same thing. With that, I'm going to share my screen and go over material that I prepared as well, and from other sources also. Just a second here.
Yeah, I'll let you know once we see it.
There we go.
Yeah, it looks
And
good.
go to PowerPoint presentation. And the bill that we're talking about here is House Bill 913. It passed through the House and the Senate practically unanimously and signed by the governor back in June 23rd, I think it was, something like that as well. First area we're going to talk about here deals with Chapter 468, which is the Community Association Manager license law. Community association managers have been licensed, have been required to be licensed in certain circumstances since 1987. Moving forward, they keep putting a little more regulation on the managers. This was a massive change as far as regulation is concerned for the manager and manager profession this year. First thing that they added in 468 was if managers had his license revoked, they can't have any interest in a management firm for a minimum of 10 years. So they'd be out of the business for 10 years before they might be allowed to come back in, and they're allowed to reapply after 10 years. That does not mean that they will automatically be licensed again. Also, all managers and apparently management firms must create and maintain an online license account with the DBPR, the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. We're going to see about condominiums in a moment as well. But you have to maintain an account. The CAM firm and the CAM have to identify all the associations that they're providing management services for, and they must update their own online license account within 30 days of any change in that information that's provided to the state. And the firms have to identify everyone who's working for the firm, and also uh, anytime someone leaves or is added to the list as well. We've been doing that for quite some time, since the firm license went into effect. Quite often, however, there has been little or no enforcement of that. This gives it a little bit more of an enforcement issue, and firms and CAMs that don't comply with this can face disciplinary action imposed by the DPPR, and the department can uh, suspend the license, revoke the license, impose fines not to exceed $5,000 for each violation. They can also put a licensee on probation or a firm on probation as well. So that's the enforcement authority that they have to be able to make you do all that as well. And, and contracts for managers, management firms. If you have a contract with the association, you must comply with structural integrity reserve study requirements, milestone inspection requirements as well. And every contract must have somewhere in it this notice that says the community association manager shall abide by all professional standards and record keeping requirements imposed pursuant to Part 8 of Chapter 468 Florida statutes. And the contract between the licensee and the firm may not waive or limit professional practice standards required pursuant to Part 8 of Chapter 468 Florida statutes. Part 8 of 468 is the manager license law. It has some standards in it that spell out what the manager's duties and obligations are. Likewise, in the Florida Administrative Code, we call that the rule book, 61E14, has some additional professional practice standards in there as well that managers are obligated to comply with as well. Additional duties for managers. This law 913 added CAM's responsibilities for certain things in their capacity as a manager. This was already in the HOA regulatory statute. It's now up in the CAM statute, so it applies to all associations, and that requires a manager to attend at least one association meeting each year. I don't know managers that don't attend meetings at all. Usually that's a part of the management contract as well. Also provide to the members of the association and post on the association website, if applicable, the name and contact information of the CAM assigned to the association. Also provide to any member, upon request, a copy of the contract between the association and the CAM or the CAM firm. And all those are official records of the association anyway, and are available for inspection and copying by any member as well. Conflicts of interest. CAMs are required to disclose conflicts of interest, and the law states that a conflict of interest exists if the CAM or CAM firm proposes to enter into a contract or other transaction with the association, and it's clarified that the contract or other transaction is for services other than association management services. That would be for services such as lawn maintenance or building maintenance, doing other services for the association over and above the CAM management services. The CAM management services are defined in Part 8 of Chapter 468. Management services there as well. If you do anything else, you have to consider a conflict of interest, and that must be disclosed as well.
Hey, Fred, we have a quick question because you mentioned
Okay.
websites. Jim's
Okay.
asking, does a condo association have a statutory requirement to have a website? I know uh, the answer to this, but do you want to take that, or do you want to have a sip of water and have me answer it?
No, you can answer that. I'll answer.
It is now down to 25 or more units in a condominium. So if you have 25 units or more, the previously it was what was it 150 or more, if I believe, correct, Fred?
Correct. 150 or more at this moment, the January 1 of 2026. It applies to all condominiums with 25 units or more.
There you go. All right, Jim. Hope that
That's
clears it up.
your
And
statutory requirement.
one thing I'll quickly mention too, portal, website, app, most of the time they're all very synonymous. But if you already have a website, but you don't have the protected back end, password protected to put all the required stuff back there, that would be called, in that case, the portal part. And that is also something Gray Systems can do is create websites, Gray Systems as community association websites, both from scratch, or we will do portals to add to an existing website. So I just wanted to make that clear
Okay,
about the differences of the different terminologies used. Back to you, Fred.
okay, thanks. Um, and as Jeff said, we do provide services for websites now, but we only do websites for community associations. We don't do it for any other businesses as well. Um, and continue on with the conflicts of interest for CAMs, CAM firms as well. And the firm contract has to list any entities that may do business with an association where there's a rebuttable conflict of interest. And that means when the firm or CAM has an interest in the business as well that may do business with the association they're managing, and they might receive compensation for that as well. And compensation means any referral fee, other monetary benefit derived from a person is defined in Florida statute. And that pretty much covers everything as far as person concerned. Individuals, children, firms, associations, joint ventures, partnerships, estates, trusts, syndicates, fiduciaries, corporations, and all other groups thereof. And again, this is additional regulation for the CAMs over and above what we've been living with for quite some time as well. And if the association receives and considers a bid exceeding $2,500 for goods or services other than association management services, which may reasonably be construed to be a conflict of interest, the association must solicit multiple bids. And that's when you receive a bid from the management firm that you're dealing with or the individual manager to propose or do other services other than management services. Then you must get bids for that as well if it's more than $2,500. And that does not apply if there have been services disclosed in the management agreement as well. And if they do have a proposal to enter into a transaction that would be a conflict of interest, then all that has to be disclosed. Copy of all contracts retained as part of the proposed activity. That's part of the meeting where the board is going to consider that contract entering into it as well. And if the board of an association finds that a CAM or firm has violated the statute, any contract with the CAM or firm is voidable, and they may terminate the contract by delivery of written notice of termination. If the contract is terminated, the association is liable only for the reasonable value of the management service provided at the time of cancellation, not liable for any termination fee, liquidated damages, or other form of penalty for such cancellation as well. And that's the CAM changes in the laws as well. Some changes in the milestone inspection requirements. Um, and they changed that. If you haven't followed that for condominiums and cooperatives, 3 stories or greater in height, they added the word habitable stories in there as well. Habitable means which can be inhabited. Not quite sure the correct pronunciation of that, but like it do. To do all that as well. But um, habitable means you could have a lower floor that is garage or storage. as some of the buildings where they're in floodplain areas, and then have three more floors, two more floors. They're habitable. First one's not, so that would not qualify. And milestone inspection is two parts. Milestone inspection phase one does a visual inspection of the building, and if they don't observe any structural issues, they don't have to do the phase two. If they observe the structural issues, they must do a phase two inspection, which can be intrusive to determine if there are structural problems with the building. The legislature is still wrestling with what do you do if you observe structural deterioration. When do we have to have the repairs made or address that as well? And the legislature is kicking that back to the local governments as well, and letting them make that decision. And basically just having the word habitable there as well, and for the milestone inspections. They do require those to be done by a licensed architect or engineer, and the structural integrity reserve studies can be also done by those certified by CAI or the Association of Reserve Specialists as well. And as I said before, local enforcement agencies now, by the end of this year, this is referring to the building department in the county or cities that have those as well. They have to go through their population and determine the number of buildings that have to be or have to have milestone inspections and the structural integrity reserve study. They have to report that by the end of this year to the state as well. And they also have to have a list of the buildings that they determine are unsafe or uninhabitable as determined by milestone inspection. They also provide to the state the license number of the building code administrator responsible for the milestone inspections for the local enforcement agency as well. And believe me, the local governments are not happy about that either as well. Going back now to the condominium law again, the definitions in 718-103 were expanded to include video conference. That means real-time audio, video-based meetings between two or more people in different locations using video-enabled and audio-enabled devices.
Time for an interruption because
Okay.
this is something that has already begun confusing people, even though this is hot off the press bullet point here. So the term video conference, we know what it means. This is an example of one. So when we start talking about video conference board meetings, are we talking about a board meeting that is solely held by video conference? Or are we talking about a hybrid where the primary location is still the meeting room, but we happen to be simulcasting it out for everybody who physically cannot be in the room because they're out of town? Does that constitute a a video conference board meeting, or does that more of a simulcast of something taking place at the official location? That's been the confusing part, even though this is supposed to clarify things.
Okay. Uh, we're going to talk about that in more detail in just a moment, but let me go back and just address that prospectively from what's happened in the past. When COVID came along, there was a lot of questions about doing virtual meetings. What we're doing here today as well. It's the platform that my company has adopted for all of our in-person discussions as well. But anyway, the corporate law, Chapter 617, which applies to most community associations, recognizes the video concept. So in that law, we were allowed to, if you met certain standards, conduct your board and membership meetings virtually. This is a language added to the condominium law this year, trying to clarify what that means for condominiums. As I read this, this applies to any meeting of the board or the membership or a committee, wherever it may be held. And as we're going to see in a few minutes, for membership meetings conducted virtually or video conference, there's a crazy requirement there that we have to have the quorum of the board present physically at the location where the meeting is being held. Uh, and I'm going to predict that's going to change in the future legislative sessions as well. And
So
just a side comment here, what I'm seeing, what I read is that this video conference definition can apply to any meeting in a condominium. And we're going to see the requirements for the membership meeting and board meetings in a few minutes, but it applies across the board.
So my point is though, this is going to apply. The confusion is stemming from, well, does this only apply if the person who's running the meeting cannot be physically there? So this applies whether the board president and the entire board is at the physical location or not. So even if you're just if you're just simulcasting the meeting, okay? Even though the meeting is primarily being held at a physical location and the entire board is at the physical location, it still has to be recorded and saved, correct?
Well,
So if there's
and
video running, period, it's an umbrella, all video, the meetings, it's got to be saved as a record.
the statute, other than the language regarding membership meetings, the video conferencing applies to everything.
Right.
And you can have a board meeting where no board member is physically present, but there has to be a designated location somewhere on the property
That's the
where
key.
non-board members can go and see and hear what's happening at the virtual meeting. So that accommodates the right of the owners to see and hear the board's action. That completes the transparency requirement because that's what we have. Why we have those requirements in the condominium cooperative HOA laws
Ooh,
anyway, where all the meetings are open and the members have the right to attend.
there's a dang good comment in there that I'm going to interrupt you again. Sorry, Fred, you got to get used to this when you work with me as interruptions. Uh, but Sterling is asking kind of a mind-blowing question here. Can we save just the audio? So what if you're only simulcasting the audio and you're not simulcasting the video? I mean, semantics, right? I mean, so let's say this was a board meeting. I mean, you can't see us and we're only simulcasting audio. How does that fit into this? We don't know.
Okay. If you read the rest of this,
All
it
right.
says that the notice for any meeting is going to be conducted by video conference must have a hyperlink and call-in conference telephone number for unit owners to attend the meeting.
But what if we're not doing
And
video and we're only doing audio?
yeah, and there must be a physical location where unit owners can attend the meeting in person, and all meetings conducted by video conference must be recorded, and such recordings must be maintained as an official record of the association, as we're going to see a little bit later. Also, they must be maintained on the website if you're required to have a website as
But
well.
I think an attorney can harp on this because of the word video.
Correct. So my interpretation is you don't have to have the video part if you're observing, or if you, as long as you can hear what's
Yeah.
being said.
And remember, Fred and I are not currently attorneys, so always check with your counsel if you're not sure. But so anytime we use the word interpret or anything, it's just how we are just reading this. It doesn't mean that we're giving legal advice or anything like that. All right, Fred, I'm going to shut up now. Back to you.
Okay. No, I think good question, good point. Anyway, going to the next slide. I'll get here. Uh, for the association and the community association manager, the association is obligated, the board, is to make sure that if the manager is supposed to have a license, they do have a license. That's been in the Condominium Act for years as well. And the board can be liable if they engage an unlicensed firm or unlicensed manager. They can be fined, they can be removed from the board as well. And all the directors must make sure that everybody has a license if they're supposed to be licensed. Real quickly, the license requirement for a manager is that if they're being compensated, they're managing an association with more than 10 units, or a combination of associations with more than 10 units, they must be licensed. Or if they're compensated, they're managing an association or combination of associations with more than $100,000 in budget. They must be licensed, and the association board is obligated to make sure that if they're supposed to be licensed, that they are. That applies to condominiums, still doesn't apply to HOAs or co-op as well. And if the CAM or firm has their license suspended or revoked, the association can terminate the contract without notice, or with written notice rather, to the CAM licensee. They don't have to have any pre-notices after they've been suspended or revoked. And if a firm or individual has their license revoked in terms of a contract, the association can terminate the contract, delivery of written notice to the firm as well. So instead of putting more and more responsibilities on the association. The legislation also addressed insurance and basically determined, clarify to some extent what insurance is required. Interesting to note that the requirement for a insurance appraisal, which was enacted back in 2008, that the condominium association had to have an insurance appraisal every 3 years. And the previous language said that the insurance must be based on the replacement cost determined by the insurance appraisal. This statute changes that to say it may be based on the replacement cost of the property. So that gives the condominium board a little bit of leeway and taking on some additional financial responsibility for the damage to the building. It'll be interesting to see how the courts interpret that in the future. There might be liability there for the board that might underinsure its building. In there as well, and take care of that. And the language still exists where the condominiums can cooperate with a group of their of co-ops or HOAs and getting to cover the exposure for everybody in there as well. Talk to your attorneys about how that works. Next, for condominiums, official records was changed a little bit. They finally got rid of an antiquated language called photocopy. Now they just refer to the copy of the records, and they've also added that all recordings of board, committee, unit owner meetings must be part of the official records and maintained for at least 1 year after the video recording is posted on the CEUs website. And we also have accurate, itemized, detailed records of all receipts and expenditures, including bank statements and ledgers. Ledgers refers to the book recording the transactions leading up to the bank statements. That's your accounts receivable ledger, accounts payable, your cash transaction ledgers. All those are now official records. Most of us in the management world have always considered those to be official records. I came out of the accounting world 50 years ago into the real estate development world, and in the accounting world, we considered everything to be an accounting record, including ledgers. And they've modified the law a little bit about a board member who willfully, knowingly fails to maintain records has been removed from office, and they took out the word repeatedly, which previously referred to doing it, being caught twice in a 12-month period for violating the requirements for maintaining records. So now one time suffices to basically cause a penalty to be imposed against the board member or officer that does that, or can as well. The website records was expanded a little bit about what has to be on the website. And by the way, 718 and the section regarding official records, which is 718.112, has a full list of the records that must be maintained on your website. Also, we had a question in our pre-course presentation questions about a list that's specified in 718.112. And if anybody wants to contact me after the presentation, I'll give you guidance on how to link to that. And we have to post the approved minutes of all board meetings for the preceding 12 months rather, must be posted on the website as well. And those must be posted within 30 days after they've been approved as well. In there as well. Just a real quick comment about minutes. There's always been an issue between unapproved minutes and approved minutes. Unapproved minutes are minutes that have not yet been approved by the board at a subsequent meeting or the membership at a subsequent meeting. If they're unapproved, they're still available for inspection by the other members as well as part of the official records. The approved minutes have to be posted on the website. Doesn't say anything about the unapproved minutes. Also, the comment that Jeff and I made earlier, effective January 1, 2026, the website requirement drops from 150 units to 25 units for condominiums. Financial reports, as you know, all associations are required to provide financial reports each year. And if you have less than $150,000 in revenue, you only have to do a basic report, cash report, actual receipts and actual expenditures. And that you previously said that had to be done by within 90 days of the end of the fiscal year. That's been changed to 180 days now. The problem was very few CPAs, when we were required to do compiled, reviewed, or audited statements, could get those statements done within 90 days of the end of the fiscal year, because that workload they had, and they're the ones required to do compiled, reviewed, and audited statements now as well. And so that's been extended to 180 days in there as well. But that's still the same. And once those are done, the association is required to provide those to the owners or a notice that is available upon request. If they request it, we have to provide it within 5 days after that as well. And that was never complied with either. And there. And an officer director of the association has to provide an affidavit, evidence in compliance with that requirement to have the statements done as well. Condominium and cooperative associations, investment of the association funds. Prior to this language in the law, it was pretty well accepted in the fiduciary duty of the board. They had to invest the money in investment where the principal was not at risk. They've clarified that now, and the board shall, in fulfilling its duty to manage the operating reserve funds of the association, use its best efforts to make prudent investment decisions that carefully consider risk and return to maximize profits on investing funds. And an association, including multi-condominiums, may invest reserve funds in, I think it's only, in one or any combination of certificates of deposit or depository accounts of a community bank, savings bank, commercial bank, savings and loan association, or credit union without a vote of the unit owners. So that's limiting what the board can do as far as investments are concerned. Bylaws, board meetings will be conducted in person by video conference. Division will adopt rules regarding requirements for board meetings. If a board meeting is conducted via video conference, notice must state the meeting will be held via video conference, must include a hyperlink and conference telephone number. The unit owners to attend the meeting via video conferences, as well as an address the physical location where the unit owners can attend the meeting in person. And That presume with that language, conference telephone number means that you can provide them an audio connection. It doesn't have to be video solely. And if it is conducted via video conference, such recording must be maintained as an official record of the association. And all that's facilitated today. Unit owner meetings, change was made in the law about location of unit owner meetings. It must be a location specified in the bylaws. If the bylaws do not specify a location, and meetings must be held, membership meetings must be held within 15 miles of the association. It was 45 miles. It no longer says or within the same county as the condominium property. There was a question in the pre-presentation about 15 miles of where. So possibly it could be in another county as long as it's no more than 15 miles from the association. And unit owner meetings can be conducted in person or by video conferences we talked about earlier as well. And if it is conducted via video conferences, a core of the board must be physically present at the physical location where the unit owners can attend the annual meeting. I've gotten some comments and questions about that. I have no idea why they did that, the legislature. Technically, the board has no function at a membership meeting. The bylaws of each association, the corporation, will specify who chairs the membership meeting. It's usually the president of the association, and there's no requirement that any other board member be physically present at any membership meeting. However, most board members do go, and they almost always sit on a platform elevated from the other members, but the board members at a membership meeting have the same rights as any other member, the right to vote, and that's about it as far as being at the meeting itself. And if it's conducted via video conference, it must be recorded as maintained, records are maintained as part of the association records as well. And we're going to also see that at the membership meeting, members can vote electronically. We're going to see that language in a few minutes as well. And there.
Some good questions in there too, folks. You'll see that I'm answering some of them, but not all of them, because some of them we're going to save to the end when Fred is through with the slides and the material. Plus, some of the items in there now are still going to be covered, so that's why we're not addressing some of those as well. And let me just make sure that we can hold on some.
I think we're going to cover those.
Yeah, we're going to cover them a little bit later. I'm just making sure. Okay, Fred, back to you.
Okay. We're going to talk about electronic voting in just a moment as well. And division, and again, power to adopt rules and broadcasting unit owner meeting notices on a closed circuit cable television system serving the association is no longer an alternative to physically posting meeting notices. Meeting notices must be posted conspicuously on the association property.
Thank goodness, because when like electricity go, if that was your only, I know associations where that was their only method of posting notices on a like an electronic message center, and if you lose power, the monitor breaks down. How the hell are you going to see your notice?
Right.
You know, so that's it's one of the few things that comes out of Tallahassee that makes perfect sense all the way around for a change. Anyway, back to you.
Okay, next priority is budget meetings. This addresses the issue of the members taking back control of the budget. And if the budget can be considered by the budget meeting can be also done by video conference as well. And the sound transmitting device must be used so the conversation of members may be heard by the board or committee members attending in person or by any unit owners present at the meeting. And if the board proposes in a fiscal year an annual budget which requires assessments against unit owners which exceed 115% of the assessments for the preceding fiscal year, the board must simultaneously propose at the budget meeting before the adoption of the annual budget a substitute budget. This does not include any discretionary expenditures that are not required to be in the budget. And the statute does not define discretionary, and the calculation whether the budget exceeds 115% of the prior year excludes reserves for repair or replacement of common property, structural integrity reserves, and insurance premiums, not considered included in calculating 115%. Now, note here, this does not allow the board to propose a budget that has a 115% increase in it. It only allows a 15% increase over the prior year assessment for the operating expense portion of the budget, not including, again, reserves, structural integrity reserves, or insurance premiums in there as well. So this doesn't happen very often, but that was, the board could petition to reconsider that budget if it exceeds 115% over the previous year's assessment for operating expenses. Now, if the board proposes that, they must propose their budget and a substitute budget that does not include that increase. And the members get to vote on that. Next page, the members must consider, and they can adopt the substitute budget prior to the board's adoption of the budget exceeds the 115% threshold. And adopting such substitute budget requires the affirmative approval of the majority of all the voting interests, unless a higher percentage is required by law. And that's not a majority of those present, that's a majority of the entire membership as well. And this does not allow the membership to vote at a board meeting. If they're going to, members are going to consider a substitute budget, it must be a membership meeting, and it must have proper notice and all the requirements for a membership meeting regarding the budget as well, and 14 days notice, and a copy of the proposed budget for condominiums as well. And the substitute budget is not adopted. The annual budget initially proposed by the board may be adopted, and that's the one with the greater than 150% increase in operating assessments. And we have 14 days notice of such meetings as well. That's a rare occasion, but it does there as well. And reserves, the statute allows alternative funding methods. That was originally mentioned in the law. Previously, it was limited to multi-condominium association with at least 25 condominiums. Now, any association can propose alternative funding methods. Alternative funding methods have to be approved by the Division of Florida Condominiums, Timeshares, and Mobile Homes, and that would be some method of achieving full funding without having to go and start funding in full right now. And that's never been clarified exactly what that means, but each individual association that wants to do that has proposed their funding method that would achieve full funding at some point in time, basically reducing the financial burden in the present, spreading it out later on down the road. Also for both the regular reserves and reserves under the structural integrity reserve study, the threshold for other components was raised from $10,000 to $25,000 to be included in the reserve program. So for condominiums not subject to the SERS requirement, 3 stories or less in height, or less than 3 stories in height, habitable stories, they have to include in their budget reserves for roof replacement, building painting, pavement resurfacing, anything else that costs more than $25,000 down. And SERS, we have to have in our budget the mandated items, any other item that affects the structure that costs more than $25,000 now. And the division has to adjust the $25,000 based on the CPI as appropriate. And the division has to post on their website all the information about those items as well. And again, the reserve funding must be adequate to achieve the monies needed for the association's obligations. For reserves, again, membership approval is no longer required to pause contributions to reserves or reducing reserve fundings where a building official determines that the entire building is uninhabitable due to the natural emergency, and the association reserve accounts may be pooled for two or more required components, and reserve funding for surge components can only be pooled with other surge components. There were questions originally about surge and using the pooling method. Recognize the pooling method is just a method of calculation. Pooling method has not changed the reserve requirements. It's just a matter of calculating the contributions for each component, and they are all kept in one pool, and we don't have to vote to use them for other items as well. Whatever's in the pool, looking at the pool, we can use that money for it. And reserve funds indicated in the proposed annual budget must be sufficient to ensure that the available funds meet or exceed projected expenses for all components, and the reserve pool based on the reserve funding plan or schedule of the most recent CEUs, and a vote of membership is not required for the board. Change from pooling to straight line method or straight line to pooling method, accounting for reserves as well. And funding reserves for CEUs, we have the right to fund reserves, and they can be funded by regular assessments, special assessments, and they added we can use a line of credit or loans to show that we have funded the reserves as well, and special assessment lines of credit and loans require the approval of the majority vote of the total voting interest of the association. A special assessment line of credit or loan secured for such purposes and related details must be included in the annual financial statement. Lines of credit and loans, I know things have changed in recent years, but historically the lending institutions have been reluctant to loan condominiums, co-ops, and HOAs money. HOAs have a little bit different makeup. In condominiums and cooperatives, the association doesn't own anything. So they don't have any collateral for a loan. The board can't sign over, not sign over, but provide the association property as collateral. All the association property belongs to the owners jointly. They would have to join in 100% with the lenders to accept that. However, I am aware that there are some lenders out there that do offer loans and unsecured monies to associations. To pay attention to that, it can be difficult to get a line of credit sometimes, and also loans as well. And the ability to secure a line of credit applies to unit owner controlled associations. Developer associations can't do that. And the line of credit loan must be sufficient to fund the cumulative amount of previously waived or unfunded portion of the reserve, including reserve funding amount in most recent CEUs, and it must be immediately available for access by the board to fund major required repair, maintenance, replacement expenses without further approval by the members of the association. So that's going to be some way to do something to do that as well. And for reserves that were for budget adopted on for December 31, 2028, if the association has completed milestone inspection within the previous 2 calendar years, the board, upon approval of the majority of total voting interest of the association, may temporarily pause for a period of no more than 2 consecutive annual budgets. Reserve fund contributions are reduced. The amount of reserve funding for the purposes of funding repairs recommended by the milestone inspection. That does not apply to a developer controlled association in which the non-developer units are paying control for less than 1 year, or an association controlled by 1 or more bulk assignees or bulk buyers. And associations that pause reserve contribution must have the reserve performed before the continuation of reserve contributions in order to determine the association reserve funding needs to recommend the reserve funding plan. And the service requirement, as we said before, has to be completed at least every 10 years after creation of the condominium. For those that were in existence on July 1, 2022, that requirement now has been extended to the end of December 31, 2026. And that's buildings that are at least 10 years old and 3 habitable stories or more as well. And the division can adjust the $25,000 threshold for other components. And I'll place that on their website. And the servers and milestone inspection must be performed by engineer, architect, person certified reserve specialist, or professional reserve analyst by CAI or the Association of Reserve Analysts. And the SERS must recommend a reserve funding schedule based on a baseline funding plan that provides reserve funding goal, which reserve funding for each year is sufficient to maintain the reserve cash balance above zero. And SERS may recommend other types of reserve funding schedules, providing that each recommended schedule is sufficient to meet the association's maintenance obligation. And the SERS, if the SERS recommends reserves for any item that's not a reserve component, the amount for the recommended reserves for such item must be separately identified, and the SERS is an item for which reserves are not required under the SERS. The SERS may take into consideration funding methods used by the association to fund its maintenance and reserve funding form obligations through regular assessments, special assessments, lines of credit, or loans. And if the service is performed before the association is approved, a special assessment is secured line of credit or loan. Service will be updated to reflect the funding method selected by the association and its effect on the reserve funding schedule, including any anticipated change in the amount of regular assessments. And for condos and co-ops, again, the service can be updated and changes can be made to the useful life and cost based on what's happening in the real world, based on the person performing the study and increase in cost and extension of life as well. And again, the extended time now is December 31, 2025. And that was for associations in existence before July 1, 2022. And the condos and co-ops again, if the association completes a milestone inspection or inspection completed for a similar local requirement, association may delay the performance of the required service for no more than 2 consecutive budget years immediately following the milestone inspection in order to allow the association to focus on its financial resources in completing the repair and maintenance recommendations of the milestone inspections. That applies primarily to Dade and Broward County, where those counties have for years had requirements for building recertification. Sometimes the building recertification can substitute for the milestone and SERS as well. And also, the director must sign an acknowledgement, an affidavit acknowledging receipt of the completed SERS. And for SERS and conflicts of interest, persons performing the SERS, professionals, architects, engineers, those other qualified individuals must disclose that they're going to bid on any repairs or work to be done on the building, and any contract that doesn't have that can be voidable in the future. They're subject to discipline under their license requirements if they don't disclose their intent to bid there as well. Hurricane protection, the law was amended in 2024 to redefine hurricane protection, expanding from hurricane shutters to protection. It was amended this year to clarify who has to pay for remove and reinstall hurricane protection, as either completed by the unit on the association, as specified in the declaration, or is amended. He does not define that cost as well. It's primarily related to the hurricane shutters. Condominiums, evacuations. If an evacuation order is mandatory or voluntary, is issued in a locale where condominium is located, the board can require evacuation of the condominium property. If the unit owner or other occupant fails or refuses to comply with the board's evacuation requirements, the association is immune from liability or injury, persons or property arising from such failure or refusal. Electronic voting, a board meeting in which a resolution of the board authorizing the online voting system is no longer required to be noticed 14 days before the board meeting. If at least 25% of the voting interest of a condominium petition the board to adopt a resolution for electronic voting for the next scheduled election, the board must hold a meeting within 21 days after receiving the petition to adopt such a resolution. If the petition is received within 180 days after the date of the last scheduled annual meeting. And that's for election, all matters coming before the membership as well. And a new section on electronic voting was added following electronic ballots. Basically, this allows the elections now to be conducted by the owners voting electronically, and they can electronically transmit a ballot to the email address designated by the association without complying with the rules providing for secrecy of ballots adopted by the division. As you know, for condominiums, co-ops, and the law currently says you have to vote by secret ballot. This allows an owner to opt out of that, and when they do that, they give you a notice, and you can vote by email electronically now, and telling the owners that they can do that. We can do that notice electronically, and we have to have the disclosure on the slide here that says waiving the secrecy of your ballot is your choice. You do not have to waive the secrecy of your ballot in order to vote by transmitting your ballot, completed ballot through email to the association. You waive the secrecy of your completed ballot. If you do not wish to waive your secrecy or wish to participate in the vote that is subject to this ballot, please attend the in-person meeting to which the matter will be voted on.
Hey, Fred,
Yes.
do you, and again, I'm going to premise this, folks, by saying when I asked Fred this question, we don't have the ESQ currently after our names, but I just want to ask how he interprets what he just read. Um, Somebody had asked a question, and it's a dang good one. What if the website you have or the portal you have has the capability of an online voting feature within it? Is that the same thing as what this is saying about emailing? Can like a website form from a condominium website or portal be synonymous with what this is describing for emailing your ballot? And if there's a form provided online to send to owners to cast a vote, they could have a checkbox on it that says, I'm waiving my anonymity aspect. Does that substitute for the email? Is it the same thing?
No.
Yeah.
The statute has allowed what we've referred to as online voting for years. There are many software programs out there that facilitate that, and the online voting process that we've had to use in the past, and which many people have uh, placed on their websites as well,
Yeah.
that does provide for secrecy. This process, as I see it, allows the board to send an email to the owner and says, if you would like to, you can vote by email, not our balloting system. We don't have to have an online voting system.
Right. That's what I'm
That's
saying.
totally
In
different.
in lieu of email, can the webmaster for the association provide a form? And again, it's being transmitted the same way that email is transmitted. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just throwing out there other things that could be confusing about this because there's no difference technology wise, no difference of attaching something in an email and sending it as there is as putting the same exact information onto a form and hitting send, which also goes to the designated email box at the association or whoever's counting the votes. Same thing. So this potentially lends to confusion, even though they're trying to clarify things and make things easier.
And my interpretation of this is you could do what you just described. What this is describing is an owner can opt into an electronic vote in
Right.
the election. In doing so, they give up their right to secrecy. If all that's facilitated in a link on your website, it accomplishes the same thing.
Or a private link you send to your owners. You know, like you don't if you
Correct.
don't want to have the link on your site, you send the link to your database. They click it, they
Correct.
fill it out, submit it, and that's the same thing as emailing it if they choose to go that route, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify because that will come up. I know it will. Anyway, back to
Yeah.
you.
Okay. But that, uh, personally, I think this is a great move. Uh, the secrecy part was always suspect anyway. Uh, but anyway, it is also, until we allow electronic voting, it's costly to conduct the election for condos and co-ops. You have to mail all the ballots, ballot envelopes, return envelopes, all that has to be returned as well. This can make it much more efficient, in my opinion, as well. But I think we got pretty good guidelines on that as well. And if you're voting electronically, they have to transmit their completed ballot to the email address designated by the association noted in the scheduled date and time of the meeting in which the matter is being voted on. And if rebuttable something, the association reviewed all folders associated with the email address designated by the association to receive ballots. If a board member, officer, or agent, association, or can provide sworn affidavit to such review. And authority of the division, expanded the division's authority to do more investigations. They can now, in addition to what they already had, investigate complaints related to milestone inspections, completion of repairs, required of milestone inspections, requirement for condominium association to maintain an insurance policy or fidelity bond for all persons controlled to disperse funds of the condominium association, board member education requirements, and reporting requirements of structural integrity reserve study. A quick comment about this expansion of the board's investigatory powers. The board is underfunded and overworked as, excuse me, division, underfunded and overworked as it is, and expanding this and not giving them more money, which the legislature did not do, is going to create more problems with getting these things done. As they've been underfunded for years. Also, condominium cooperative associations on for October 1, 2025 have to create and maintain an online account with the division. And the division's got all the requirements or will have all the requirements set up. It'll probably be ready on September 30th for you to do that. But supposed to do it by October 1,
I'm
2025.
going to say what
And
year? Sorry, I
yeah,
couldn't resist. I couldn't resist.
uh, following up on your comments earlier. But anyway, the division has specified, statute specifies what the division is supposed to ask for. The division has been pretty moved forward looking and using the electronic world. I expect this to be up and running pretty shortly as well. And to tell you what we got to report, and that's information obviously going to be maintained on division in the division's records as part of their records as well. And that's all the condominium units and everything having to do with your association as well. And so I don't know, I think most of us now have gone through this process. MyFloridaLicense.com is the DBQR website, and you can go there as a licensee, access all your information. If you have not set up an account, you can do it real simple. You know, so you can have to do that. So condominiums and co-ops as well. And that was everything that I wanted to say. I'm going to be here as long as anybody wants to ask questions or comments, or Jeff can moderate as well.
Yeah, we've got a few questions in there that we'll get through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be the bad guy. So Fred, I'm going to read the questions and when I say by I'll be the bad guy, if I don't think they need to be on topic for the materials that you covered, but if I'm incorrect, Fred, don't be shy to shoot me down and say, Jeff, what are you talking about? That's not a question for this class. What are you doing to me? Don't put me on the
Okay.
spot here. Forget
Okay.
about it. Hey, forget about it. So, um, the first, this one goes back to the beginning. So some of these may not make as much sense because it might be a comment based on something you said, and the full context of the question may not be in there. so I'll do the best I can. Do all cams employed by the firm, by the cam firm, need to be listed on the cam firm's DBPR account? Or can it be like one master cam, or do they all need to be listed?
I don't know the answer to that
Yeah. And that,
because
and I applaud you for saying that. That's how Jesse Ventura got elected as governor, by not being afraid to
uh,
say, I don't know.
I, I have been trying to register my cam firm
Yeah.
and put my licensees on there. It's not available yet.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, I presume that they're going to give you in there when you register your CAM firm, there's going to be an opportunity that says list your managers here,
Right. We don't know yet.
and it's going to be maintain a file. If somebody leaves, you have to go in there and take them out.
Right.
If you bring somebody new on, you have to go in there and put them in. Under the current language in the law, anytime anything changes, you have 30 days to notify the state. So that's what I think is going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of things that get passed not only this year, but that got passed last year that still we don't have
We're doing
information to implement yet, such as the condominium legal CEU. We just don't know. Like this class, had we had the instructions on what needs to be in that class, this class may have counted for that. But we don't know what needs to be in that class. Today's class was overkill, likely for what is going to be required by the state to be in that 1 hour CEU. So anyway, we have another question here. What if the virtual session, such as Zoom, is the property of the management company and not the association's property? So I assume the Zoom account belongs to the management company, then, and they let the associations use it, meaning the association has not subscribed and the management company only uses the video to complete the minutes. So what this person is asking, I believe, is are they still records if you make it known from the beginning and you say, we are only recording this session via audio or Zoom simply to have the records to transcribe the minutes? Do we still need to keep those recordings? I would say, yeah, right?
Yes, yes.
That's simple answer. So even if you have been doing this for years, like talk about camera, when I was on site for where I was for several years, way before any of this stuff became law, we would record all of our meetings with a good old cassette tape. I'm aging myself. We had a little cassette tape and a tape recorder. We'd hit record, and then it would pick up the noise from the microphones in the room, and we had what we needed to transcribe the minutes. If that was still being done today, plus with all the new technology today, yes, that is now part of the official records. You got to keep it.
Well,
Uh,
one issue, well, never, I'm sorry, go ahead. That's a
no, go
different
ahead.
issue. No, no, I was referring to membership meetings. It must be within 15 miles
Oh,
of a
okay.
condominium.
Okay.
And,
We have a
and
question here. Does the video conference requirement to record and maintain, does this also apply? Today was about 718, so we know it does. Does this also apply to 720? Someone's asking.
no,
HOA? No. Okay. Which
today was condo and co-op only, and the cooperative provision was not addressed as far as video conferencing.
the HOA was not addressed, right?
Co-op wasn't visited either.
Okay.
It's only condo that the video conferencing part applies to.
Okay.
But
That's
but I'm going to go back and repeat my opening comments.
yeah.
The corporate law allows not-for-profit corporations to use virtual video recording to meet virtually. So that would have enabled co-ops and HOAs to have virtual meetings. If they do have a virtual meeting and they record it, I would also say that's probably part of the official records of the association as well.
Okay. Okay.
So,
And remember, just to clarify, video conference applies to anything, even if you have the main, even if you're designating your typical meeting space as the primary, main, regular meeting space, and all the board members are going to be there. And none of the board members need to have a video link because they're all going to be there. If you're doing video or audio, and if you're recording it, you got to save it and it's part of the records, regardless of whether it's the official meeting place or not.
right.
Um, should or can bank account numbers be redacted before being shared with the owners? I suppose whether it's physical records or on the website. So personal information about bank account numbers, can they be redacted or blacked out?
About what kind of members?
It says, should or can bank account numbers be redacted before being shared with the membership, with the owners? Dan, maybe clarify on that. Do you mean if delinquency items are placed on the website or personal? Because remember, the official records of what must be on the website have to do with the association itself, not an individual's information. Correct, Fred?
Right.
That's individual to a potential own to a owner's portal if you have like online payments. That's separate from what must be on the website for the association. So I don't think Fred nor myself are quite sure what you're asking there with that question. So
Well, if you're asking, can an owner or member of a condominium association have access to the condominium association bank account numbers?
okay,
Yes,
he
yes, they
clarified.
can.
He clarified at the very end. I just thanks, Dan. I just scrolled to the bottom. It says if we publish the
Yes,
bank.
yeah, yes, they can. That is an official record, and the owners are allowed to see that. They don't have any access to the account because they're an owner.
But
But see, but,
numbers, can they hide the account number?
yeah,
The question. That's something we may need to find out.
no, I, I don't. No, that you would not redact the association bank account number.
Okay. So it needs to be spelled out. Okay.
Right.
Paul, I can't really address it. It says, what about investing reserves and bonds? Is that Fred, is there something you can address with that, or is that too vague to address?
Well, if you remember, uh, the, the statute addressed the investment, and it says the association may. It doesn't say. I'm not sure it says must, but basically it says bank accounts and does not mention um, non-financial institution investments, bonds, stocks, or anything like that. There's been a contingent of the condominium community that for years argued that we should be able to invest in stocks and bonds.
Well,
But
he just followed up, Paul, that they use corporate bonds.
I'm sorry.
Paul followed up that they use corporate bonds.
Okay, but then correct. Um, so whatever the statute says, that's what I would limit it to.
Okay. What is the time frame to notify owners of board meetings? I think that's more of a review. The different types of meetings. What are the requirements?
For board meetings, normal regular board meetings require a minimum 48 hours notice, posted somewhere on the community property. Also, if you're required to have a website, 150 units or more now, 25 January 1, board meeting notices must be posted on the website and an agenda and any items to be considered at the board meeting. For any board meeting where they're going to, a condominium board meeting, where they're going to discuss or contemplate assessments, adopting a budget, passing an assessment, anything having to do with money requires a 14-day written notice provided by U.S. mail, personal delivery, or electronic transmission to all the owners. And they have to have a special assessment, the purpose of the assessment as well, and detailed, if you know the amount in there. That's pretty much the standards for board meetings. Your documents also, let me caution you, may provide for more or longer notice. I always reflect back, my first purchase 100 years ago was a condominium, and I remember our documents required 72 hours notice for board meetings. And I checked into that after the Condominium Act was enacted, and the statute says at least 48 hours. So if your documents require 72 hours, you go with that. Also a lot of the older condominiums had 15-day notice for membership meetings or 30-day notice. So
Okay.
let's go with that.
So Fred, what I did was, and I want to alert all the folks, I did turn off the Q&A so that we can get to a few more. If we just leave it open, we'll be here all day, and I know
Yeah.
everybody has things that they need to do. So Fred, how much more time do you have so I can, I know you have
I'm,
appointments coming up and I don't want to keep you from those. So how much time do
I'm,
we have left?
I'm I'm free for a little while, 10,
You want to
15
do
minutes.
about 10 more minutes or so?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So we have a question here from Stephen. The Declaration of Condominium states that a majority of the voting interests is required to approve an amendment. Does voting interests refer to the entire membership or just those who have attended the meeting to vote?
Applies to the entire membership.
Okay. Hope that clears it up, Stephen. Our HOAs, I know this was condo heavy. I'm going to skip that one for now. Let's see. Paul's asking, are there any limits on the dollar amounts of special assessments?
No.
You saw me shaking my head, and I'm like, I knew the answer to that.
Then, let me just
$1 million. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
quickly. Almost all of the association documents, condo, co-op, HOA, provide the board as a power to adopt assessments. It doesn't differentiate between what we call the annual assessment and the industry calls a special assessment.
Special assessment.
A special assessment is any assessment other than the annual assessment, but the board is empowered to adopt all assessments. So there's no limit on that. It's what the board needs.
Okay.
But the documents may have thresholds where they
That's,
have to go back to the membership.
check your documents. And also always be mindful that any budget, any assessment is always a best guess. There's a four-letter S word that I'm not going to use now, but that stuff happens. Okay. Stuff happens. That's a five-letter word. I think you know the one I'm referring to. And you have inflation, you have tariffs, you have all kinds of things that come into play. So when you do your due diligence and get your quotes and such 6 months ago, that might be different than what's happening now. Always be sure to have some grace. Show your board, your committees, and your managers some grace when things don't match up exactly 100% to what was initially thought. Things happen. It's a best guess. Okay. Amy's asking who calls a membership meeting? Who calls for it? Who puts it together? Who's the official person that calls for it?
Okay, there are two types of membership meetings. There's an annual meeting and a special meeting. Annual meetings are provided for in the documents. Some documents are very specific about when. Others are more open, say as determined by the board. Sometimes the board gets involved. Other than the annual meeting, the board usually is empowered to call special meetings if they want to consider amendments or um, other issues. Also, almost all of the association documents provide that the membership is allowed to call a membership meeting. It usually requires a petition signed by normally 10% of the owners, and the petition has to specify the purpose of the meeting, what they're intended to do at the meeting. And check your documents for that information. But it's not very common that so it can be done. Corporate law provides for that as well. And if 10% sign the petition, they've identified a reason for the meeting. The board must call that meeting and go through the notice requirements and everything else as part of that as well.
Okay. So, Fred, this next one is a lengthy one, and I just put it in the chat for you to see so you can read it while I read it aloud. This is a real world example somebody is sharing. Our COA, our condo, went from 2,800 a quarter to 6,700 a quarter for mandated items. A portion of this will go to new reserves. After, say, about 5 years, if we have $2.5 million in reserves in an interest bearing account, can we lower the quarterly assessment?
I'm going to use some hypotheticals here. What you're describing is not unusual. Okay, whoever
Tell us, Tom Jones. It's not unusual, right? Go ahead.
uh, whoever performed the structural integrity reserve study made the observation most likely that you were grossly underfunded, even if you have $2.5 million in an interest-bearing account. That money is included in calculating your reserve contributions to fully fund your mandatory reserves under the structural integrity reserve study. So that does not mean that money's already been applied, to put it simply. And what you're doing now, your association is doing now, is making up the shortfall and the funding that you have accrued over the past whatever number of years the association have been in existence. Okay, so that's not something separate and distinct from the requirements that have been determined by your structural integrity reserve study. Your example has been experienced throughout the state. That's why the legislature keeps pushing this back.
Yeah.
Uh, right now, you've got that structural integrity reserve study. Technically, your board doesn't have to fund that until the end of 2025, which means you can go through this year and still waive the reserves.
Yeah.
Next year, 2026, it becomes effective again. So your membership could this year at a membership meeting, if the board was cooperative, vote to waive or reduce that for this year only through 2025. Then it kicks back in next year. But the legislature is probably going to do something next year too. So that's that's the result of all this new legislation.
Like we said, because everything makes sense 100% of the time. Being facetious again. So this kind of covered Richard's question. Any situation where the boards can, condo boards can request owners to waive reserves. You sort of addressed that.
Right now, if you're uh, less than 3 habitable stories in height, the members have the right to waive reduced funding of reserves. Okay? And
Habitable. That doesn't mean like a garage is the first level,
right,
right?
right, habitable, and they still have that right to waive reduced funding of reserves. Right now, if there's 3 habitable stories or more in height, uh, apparently based on this legislation, you can waive reserves for this year, 2025,
Okay.
but not next year. I'm, I'm saying that maybe because I know, and working with the attorneys that I've worked with and you work with, Jeff, uh, since you can waive it this year if you adopt the 2026 budget before the end of December this year, you can waive it for next year as well.
It's the moral of that story. Contact your association counsel if you're not sure. Okay.
Exactly.
It's always better to spend a little more now than screw up potentially, not on purpose, of course, and then have to pay even more later. So always get a legal opinion. Um, this looks like it's a one-word answer. Please confirm whether a line of credit for CEUs does not require a vote of the membership. Yes or no? Does
A
it
line of
not
credit,
require?
it does require.
It does require, right?
Yes.
Just want to be, that's what the person's asking. Okay. Can the board or manager make changes to the reserve schedule once it's been completed?
When you say reserve schedule, I'm going to presume that you're talking about the structural integrity reserve study done by the architect, the engineer, the certified reserve specialist of CAI or the Association of Reserve Specialists, whatever that is. Once they have done that, no, the board or management can't change that. If it's not a, if it's a
Especially management. The
condominium,
management company serves at the pleasure of the board. So even if it was permitted, it would have to come from the board.
but the management company can't do something that's illegal.
Right. Right. But I'm saying even if it was permitted, it would have to come from the board and the board would instruct their management
Correct.
company to,
Yes.
so we should be taking management company out of that question altogether is my point.
Yeah. But just quickly mention, if it's not, if it's a condominium that's not required to do the service, then, and if they get a reserve study and they don't like it, then they can change it.
Right.
Okay. So
Okay.
that three habitable stories or more in height is the determining factor.
So let's see. It's 12:29. Let's do two more, and I'm going to try to find one that appears most often because it seems to be the topic most are asking about. Let's see. Website. Blah, blah. Looks like this one. All right. Websites and elections. This is four out of the four times here. So I'm not sure if we're going to have an answer for this one, but like an election runner, somebody's asking about an election runner as an app that is secret. So I suppose if this is going back to our discussion about emailing versus an online application, an online form, if an election runner is an app, and if it's an app that could be done online and acts similarly to sending an email like an online form does, because it's through the same channels, I would assume. Fred, do you have a comment about that? Election Runner is an app, is what the person's bringing up.
Just to clarify, there is software available that satisfies the requirements in 718 for secret balloting electronic voting.
For the secret, for the way that
Yeah,
what was before this new law
correct,
came up. Yes.
correct. There, if that same software is available as an app, then it can be used for online secret balloting. What we talked about today is not secret.
That's what he, but I think that's what he's referring to. Can that also, I brought up, you were
Yeah,
talking about email, then I brought up the online form. He's bringing up the election app. Can an app suffice as that as well if the person is not concerned about the anonymity aspect?
the app is the same as software. Okay,
Or the
and
email.
if the association communicates to the owners that you can now cast your vote in the election of directors via email. When you do, you have to include this statement that says, I'm giving up my right to secrecy. And that's not a secret ballot. But you could also have an app that does satisfy the secret balloting process. And that would be the same as the software that's available to do that now.
Okay. All of these last remaining questions before I turned off the Q&A are all electronic related. So let's just quickly go through them and then we'll get out of here. If we already have something like voting portals in place, does this mean they also have the option to email as well? If we've already established yes. Or is this the only for associations that do not have something like voting portals in place? If you mean, like Fred just mentioned, if you mean by voting portals, the secret aspect where you hire one of those excellent companies out there that does the secret stuff, like a Vote HOA Now or Get Quorum, things of that sort, that's for the secret part. If they also happen to give you an option where you can get rid of the anonymity part, I suppose that could be used for that as well. If you have an online plugin or option for your website for the non-anonymity aspect, that should be fine too. You can give them those options along with email. I caution you, and Fred, this is more in my wheelhouse as the technology nerd geek of Gray Systems here. Even if you think you know how to do your own secret balloting with your website, I highly advise against something like that. For example, every day, every day you wake up to your something on your phone having to be updated. All right. And the reason I bring that as an example is if you were to maintain your own secret voting platform, which we are advising against, you have to be on top of any changes that come from the state at any point in time about what has to be required to keep somebody's privacy private. You also have to be responsible for making sure that that application will work with operating system upgrades and computer upgrades, again, which happen almost every day. You don't want that headache. Potential lawsuit waiting to happen, right, Fred?
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
So, Barbara, I know that's more than what you asked. I hope that answers your question. If the board is made up of investors and cannot be physically present, how can we be compliant for meetings? And I think you answered that earlier. You do it online, record it, and you have your records, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Let's see here. Just a couple of more. There's only two left here. App folios. Let me make sure it's appropriate. It's online, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so AppFolio is the example this person is giving. There are other ones out there. It's a service that this particular person's management company is using, and they're providing the portal for the association. Can that be used and suffice as the website? The answer is yes. Correct, Fred? As long as it's
Mhm.
compliant, the owner protected side, username and password. You got to get in
Yep.
there to see the information. The thing that I will caution there, okay, whether you use Gray Systems, because we provide the compliant websites, or anybody else for that matter, always make sure you also keep the records somewhere on your own for safekeeping. You never know. You never know. We hear horror stories all the time where you have a falling out with your management company and somebody tries to make your life difficult and won't give those records back to you for whatever reason. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but it happens. Whatever you provide for that portal, also keep it safely somewhere else so that if you ever have to make a change and you want to come with somebody like us or anybody else to do that, you have access to those records easily. Fred, you want to say something?
Yep.
Oh,
You're
okay.
right. Exactly right.
Okay. And let's see, I'll give you this last one here. Please confirm a meeting of the board of directors requires a quorum of the directors to be physically in person, not Zoom or telephone. And I don't think that's the case. As long as,
No, no, the requirement that the board members be present in person was for a membership meeting, which is going to be a virtual meeting. I have no idea why they did that. And Jeff, I help board meetings sometimes, and all through after COVID, most of the people that I've worked with during COVID continued to have board meetings with no board member physically present. As many of you are working with associations, many of you have uh, out of out of state board members, residents,
snowbirds, for example.
snowbirds, and they're not here in the summer at all. And but you still have board meetings. The only thing you got to do is to satisfy the requirements that it be somewhere physical people can come to, they can see it, they can hear it, and you have minutes and you record it. And now you got to post it on your website. Well, if you
Yeah.
have to have a website, but you can have board meetings where no board member is physically present. The requirement that I mentioned today was for membership meetings where it's going to be conducted virtually. A core of the board must be physically present
In
at
some
that
way, shape, or
membership meeting.
form.
Hmm?
In some way, shape, or form. Whether
Yeah,
two are at the location, two are in New York, two are in Wyoming. As long as you have a quorum, however they add up, correct?
you got, it does say physically present.
Oh, okay.
But
So yeah,
that's like I
see,
said,
so they're
that's
trying
for a
to
membership
clarify things,
meeting.
but it's not clear.
Yeah. And again, I have no idea why they did that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm gonna attorneys will probably be divided on that, but check with your counsel because a lot of the attorneys that I work with are going to I know they consider physically present, meaning also whether it's means-
Virtually or not.
meaning they're attending the meeting, they're physically attending the meeting, whether it's their butt in the seat in the room or online attending the meeting. As long as they're attending the meeting in some way, shape, or form is how a lot of the attorneys I know have been interpreting that new statement. What about how do you interpret that, Fred? Just not to put you on the spot, but what would you say to something like that?
Well, fortunately, I don't have to interpret that.
I I knew you'd say that. I missed one. This is the last question. So Marianne's asking. I missed this one. I apologize. To confirm, the SERS inspection must be done once every 10 years for a four-story condo. Is she asking?
Yes.
Okay. Marianne, sorry about that. Hope you didn't think I skipped you there. If I did happen to skip anybody's question tomorrow, excuse me, tomorrow, look for an email coming out to everybody who attended today using the email you used to register. It'll contain Fred's contact information as well as a space for you to clarify anything that may not have gone answered today or answered in the way you intended it to be. It's also where you can request a version of the slides from Fred, but we do ask that you wait for that email tomorrow and you can contact them that way. Fred, before we head out, do you have any parting words for everybody?
I'm just going to say thank you for everybody attending, and also Jeff sends that contact information. I'm available. If you ever have questions, concerns, or issues about your condos or anything about association management, and I offer that service to everybody. And you now, if you haven't been in our system before, you are now, and you'll get newsletters and other stuff from us. If you don't like it, just say no and unsubscribe. But and thanks again, thanks for being here. Thanks, Jeff, for making it work.
Thank you, Fred. Great job as usual. Folks, everybody, have a wonderful day. Stay cool, stay hydrated, take care, and we'll see you the next time. Be sure to visit gracesystems.com. Check it out. We have some great website services as well. That's all that we do, along with all of the education products. There's camp continuing education, soon to be announced board member continuing education, certifications for board members on convenient weekends, which a lot of the companies that offer these freebies do not do. So keep that in mind. And of course, the association websites and portals. Who better to do that than Gray Systems, because we know that business. Folks, have a wonderful day. See you next time. Bye bye.